Thank you, Ceann Corlin. You might remind me when I have a minute left.
I certainly will.
We live in extraordinary difficult economic times, and it now requires very clear political thinking, very difficult decisions to restore economic sovereignty and to fix the banking system and get public finances under control. And it's not that long ago in this country that we weren't too far from where Greece are now. We had, on top of economic instability, absolute, utter political chaos. We had, for the remaining weeks of the last administration, a rudderless ship, and it was absolutely frightening. And in the general election of 2011, everybody knew the state of the country's economic fortunes. And we're all aware of the difficult decisions that need to be made. Difficult they will be, and hopefully fair along the way. And if you look at the number of measures thus far, this government has restored the minimum wage. It has brought in a baseline earning per hour for every man, woman and young adult in this country. They have removed 330,000 people from the universal social charge. They've increased mortgage interest relief. They've reconstructed JLCs after were struck down by the superior courts of this land. Maintained basic rates of social welfare and maintained income tax levels in the first budget. Managed to renegotiate two aspects of serious negotiation with the Troika. Number one was the terms of the bailout, and number two, the promissory notes. So in the 15 or 16 months that this government have been in office, there are a number of points that are worth making in the context of protecting the lower paid and those who have felt the brunt of the economic collapse in this country. Nobody wants to introduce a tax, but it is in the memo for understanding. We are required by the Troika, who are paying our bills, and bear in mind we borrow around €50 billion a month to fund our essential public services. And that's before you ever look at the whole issue of banking debt. And that's where this government, that's the prism from which this government are viewing the economic situation. And that's the manner in which the government's hands are tied. But nonetheless have pointed, as I've outlined, have pointed to a number of areas where they have protected the most vulnerable. It is absolutely incumbent on every single individual member of this House and every political grouping to produce proactive and constructive policies that can help us get out of the mess that we're in. I want to congratulate Sinn Féin this evening on their bill for sheer brass neck. Because when you compare what's happening in the north with the DUP, and that's savage austerity, and you compare their utterances down here in relation to a government who are proactive in getting us out of the hole that we're in, sheer hypocrisy stands out. This is a €100 household charge. I think time in this House this evening would be better spent in terms of expanding a full, equitable and fair property tax and putting forward proposals to government that can be used, so that when we do arrive at a stage where the property tax has been introduced, that Sinn Féin could say, well, yes, we had an input in all of that. Now, the late Jim Kimmy always said, the moral high ground is a very lonely place to be. And since February of last year, we've got moral high ground issues, one after the other, with Sinn Féin. There were a number of motions passed at the recent conference, and I'm going to quote one of them. Motion 66. This Ard calls on the Ard Code to drop strict guidelines for all Sinn Féin public representatives with regard to the use of taxpayers' money and the drawing down of expenses to ensure consistency of conduct across the party and maintain our credibility with the public. Now, 5 minutes with this morning's Irish Independent would put paid to that lie. Misappropriating taxpayers' money to fund a political operation flies in the face of this motion. It is utter hypocrisy. About £500,000 from the British Exchequer has been drawn down to fund a political operation in this country whilst they have the abstentionist policy in Westminster. This smacks of hypocrisy, and this plays to people's fears, and this takes advantage of the misery that people are experiencing in this country at the moment. Because when people get up in the morning, they wonder about the next utility bill, or they wonder about the next mortgage payment, and they turn around, they look at government, they look at the difficult decisions that are made, and then when they look at opposition, what are they getting? Political hypocrisy and pious political platitudes. They do nothing but to debase the reputation of politics in this country. And that's why politics has been besmirched to the level that it has done, because of sheer political cynicism, at a huge cost to the ordinary hard-pressed individual and at a bigger cost to the reputation of the body politic.